quite obviously, exercise is a critical component for everyone at any number on the calendar, any color, any size, whatever. But but when we get older, we feel like we experience difficulty in the recovery part of it with relation to soreness and blood pressure, things like this. But when it comes to post-workout recovery and the challenges that we are facing, is it age or is it simple deconditioning? Today on the Personal Age Fitness Podcast. Good day and welcome to the Personal Age Fitness Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Garrett Williamson. I'm president of Personal Age Fitness and the host of the Personal Age Fitness Podcast. And before we dive into this, I want to tell you how to get in touch with us if you have any questions about this podcast or any others, or as I always say, if you have any questions about dispelling the myths of health, fitness, and wellness, please reach out to me at area code 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach me at Garrett@personalagefitness.com. That's, of course, my email address, Garrett, Garrett, @personalagefitness.com. You can also reach me on our website, personalagefitness.com, and also our Facebook page, Personal Age Fitness. And if you feel like it, hit me up on Twitter or X at Team PE. That's at Team PE. If you're so inclined to reach out to us this way. I appreciate you joining us today. And of course, I'm continuing this series I'm doing on, is it age or is it something else? And I get my ideas for podcasts from many places. Most of the time, it's just experiences I have, of course, talking to clients and talking to the general public. Most people do what I do for a living. And so, fitness comes up, workouts come up, nutrition, what have you. And but a lot of these, of course, come from questions with clients, and believe it or not, this one today comes from a staff member, and I'm sure it's an experience that you have with a client. Nathaniel Cook, Nate Cook, is one of our trainers. He's an exercise specialist for us. He's also with the Coast Guard, and Nate had evidently had an experience with a client that was asking about post-workout recovery and the quote-unquote aging process or any complications related to that. And I thought it was a fantastic topic, and I really appreciated him getting it to me. Of course, it's one I want to address. What I really want to do with this series is, like I said when I started it, was I wanted to take care of everybody's what I call their but what abouts. Okay, Garrett, you show me that the problems that I'm experiencing aren't related to age. They're related to 4 components of ability, and the 4 components are fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, and of course the most important, which is mindset. And all those are controllable, and all those are my responsibilities. So that's not a problem. But what about fill in the blank? Amazing the answers that I get, the questions I get about the what abouts. And the but what about today is but what about, I feel like I'm more sore when I'm older, and I'm more sore than I was when I was younger in my recovery, or having difficulties with my blood pressure or what have you in my recovery. Is that associated with age? Let's dive into that. Let's talk a little bit first about especially soreness. And muscle recovery. I've done podcasts on this before, just to refresh your memory, to understand what soreness actually is. There's a extremely famous study, and in fact, I'm probably going to give something out about my interview process of interviewing a new staff member when I tell you this. But if I have a staff member that has a degree in the field, and I don't interview anybody that doesn't have a degree in the field of either fitness, exercise physiology, exercise kinesiology, athletic training, sport medicine, exercise science. If it's not one of those degrees, we of course don't. We're not interested in interviewing anybody. Everybody on my staff has one of those degrees. But with that, there's one study they should know, and I'm shocked if they don't. In fact, if they've graduated and they have one of those degrees, then not only would I question their education, I would want to go back and talk to one of their kinesiology professors if they don't know about this study. It's very, very famous. I have had clients that know about this study, and it's typically abbreviated as DOMS, D-O-M-S. It's delayed onset of muscle soreness. And I'm actually reading from this, but this is one that's funny. Every time I research and try to get a study or talk about a study on DOMS, I don't go back to the study that I read because I've known about DOMS since probably 1991. About delayed onset of muscle soreness in this study, but they keep replicating the study, and so it's interesting to me to see, which study I'm going to quote this time. But this was actually one that's popular. It was published in a very popular publication in our field, and that is the Journal of Sport Medicine. It's one of the Bibles as far as publications. And researchers that in the exercise science field that are in the clinical side that need to, or in the education side, and they need to publish. This is one of the places they really want to publish. But the Journal of Sport Medicine, DOMS affects people of all fitness levels, and it's basically the idea of having a delay. You work out, and then later on, you're actually sore. And why it affects different times, different severity, different muscles. If it's a bigger muscle group, it's usually going to take a little longer for you to have delayed onset of muscle soreness. Most people I know that do really severe leg workouts, they usually tell me that it's 2 days later that they notice it. And what DOMS is, what muscle soreness is, it's the repair process going on. Now, it can be, this is actually repair. What has happened is, and I've said this on many occasions, we're not building anything when we're training somebody. I know that sounds crazy, but in the actual exercise, in the actual training session, we're not building anything. We are tearing down. And don't worry, it's nothing. We're special. We're the best in the business, but every trainer, every exerciser, every physical therapist, that's what they're doing. They're basically tearing down muscle tissue and telling the body wrong, do it again. And we know that the body can heal itself, and that's what exercise is based on. That's what physical therapy is based on. And so the body repairs it. We make sure it has the right nutrients. It repairs it stronger. So the soreness that you feel the next day, a lot of people believe is lactic acid, because you hear that a lot. That lactic acid is the burn that you feel when you're lifting a weight or doing repetitions, and you get to a point of close to failure, and all of a sudden the muscle starts to burn. You basically want to stop. And what that is the fibers are actually tearing, and they're releasing a chemical, and the chemical is called lactic acid. And the reason your body does that, it's a waste chemical, but the reason your body does that is it's basically burning the muscle, sending a communication to the brain, telling the brain, stop it. You're going to do some severe damage if you keep this going, and that's a defense mechanism. And so it's also a guide that we know of where to stop doing an exercise, and where to control the repetitions, the weight, or what have you. Now that actually dissipates within about 30 seconds, which is the reason we typically, when we're training somebody, if we're doing some of a high intensity type of program, we've taken them to that failure, we're going to wait 25 to 30 seconds before we go after that muscle again. And the reason being is we want to restore what is known as the adenosine triphosphate, ATP. It's the gasoline for the muscle, and we want that lactic acid to dissipate. So that's not the soreness that you feel the next day, though. What you're feeling is the repair process going on. This is when the white blood cells are coming in, they're pulling off the little pieces of fiber, and they're looking to the wood pile. Hope you have enough calories in your system, and hopefully you've got enough protein, and it's looking to the wood pile, and the wood pile is protein, and it's building that muscle back. And that's painful. Think about a bunch of workmen walking in your house. Well, if your house had feelings, they would feel that, and that's what you're feeling. You're feeling that soreness. So the soreness is the repair process. And but what was interesting about this study they did, the DOM study they did and that I'm quoting today, this is from 2003. According to a study published in the Journal of Sport Medicine, DOMS affects people of all fitness levels and ages, but its duration and severity can vary greatly among individuals. Now, you may think, hey, Garrett, there's your evidence. There's your evidence that when time passes on the calendar, it automatically affects these people differently. It affects older people differently. Well, hang on. We'll see. Also, I mentioned blood pressure. Let's talk about that for a minute. It's common to experience a temporary increase in blood pressure when you're right after a workout, and for many reasons. You got an increased heart rate, you're increasing stress on the muscles, stress on the body, period. And so stress is going to cause a slight spike in blood pressure. It's something that we typically watch if somebody really has a problem with blood pressure. And I did this actually, the first time I ever did this was in an internship program. And we were working with the senior population at a hospital. And there were certain people that were blood pressure tagged, as we called them. That was not something we called them personally, but it's something we used amongst the staff, talking about folks that had to have their blood pressure checked prior to doing resistance training, because they may have elevated, dangerous level, elevated high blood pressure, and we wanted to make sure that blood pressure was in a manageable area. If not, then we couldn't let them work out. So because you do experience, everybody does, a slight increase in blood pressure in exercise. And so there's another study that actually addresses this, of course. I'm going to always try to give you a study. Regular exercise is actually proven to help lower resting blood pressure. Now, you may know that. That's not a big surprise. And why does it do that? The more conditioned you become, the more efficient your body operates. And so if your body operates efficiently, then that's going to lower your blood pressure. But a meta-analysis, this is a study, a meta-analysis in the Journal of Hypertension demonstrates that structured exercise programs significantly reduce resting blood pressure, especially in hypertensive populations. Now, why do I say that? Garrett, exercise lowers blood pressure. That's not a new one on me. I want to show you this is why we know this. Tons of studies, lots of information out there. But if you're working with an older population, which of course we do. If you're a fan of the podcast, you've heard me talk about our population. So our youngest client currently is 9 years old, I believe. We worked with them as young as 3. Our most senior client is 96, and actually 35% of our clientele is over the age of 65. And that has been for the history of personal edge. It actually used to be a bigger population because we didn't have as many younger folks in it, a bigger percentage of the population. We're still working with the most numbers of senior clients that we ever have. So it's something we're very familiar with. And in my 32 years of practice, that has been a large chunk of my clientele. So it's something very familiar to us. So seeing people that are past a certain time on the calendar, we're not foreign to the challenges they have in many things. But as I've told in many, many podcasts, we can regrow muscle at any age. Same rate, same time, same pace, same size, same color, same flavor, whatever you want to say. It doesn't matter. Your body's going to use protein, use calories just like it does when you're 14 years old. It's not going to change when you get older. None of that changes. But what about muscle soreness? Why would I have a client that is past a certain time on the calendar feel like they're more sore now than they were when they were in their 20s doing a workout? Well, it's attributed with aging, but it's actually due to deconditioning. If you take, I was talking to somebody yesterday, as a matter of fact, and not a client, and got into what did I do for a living, and of course they started talking about the exercise program, and I dove headfirst into, of course, talking to them about that is what I love to talk about. And he talked about the fact that he was used to be in great shape, he was fantastic, whatever, and then when he got in this new job, lifestyle change, he was sitting behind his desk all the time instead of out. He was an auto mechanic, out in the shop, walking around, back and forth, moving around, working on cars, and he was now sedentary. Again, lifestyle change, one of the 4. And he wasn't as active. Fitness, one of the 4. One of the 4 I'm talking about, of course, there's the four things that dictate ability: fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, mindset. Well, he had a lifestyle change and became more sedentary, got into a more sedentary job. So therefore he was more sedentary, which changed his fitness level. And he ended up gaining a lot of weight and getting really out of shape. And he was talking about how he addressed it. Well, I told him, same thing I'll tell you. He said, I got back into my workouts and I started feeling a little more sore than I usually am, whatever. And I told him, I said, think about it. If I took a 14-year-old and I did the exact same lifestyle change with him, the exact same. And I mean, and all aspects of lifestyle. You can't have a 14-year-old take on that lifestyle, be behind a desk and not moving around very much. And then after work, he went out and ran and played and did all kinds of things. No, the exact same lifestyle as this gentleman who was 55 years old. He would have the same results. When he went back to exercise, he would have the same soreness post workout, recovery, soreness, difficulties, even challenges with blood pressure. I kid you not. If he was as deconditioned as this 55-year-old individual I was talking to. Okay, how about some proof of that? How about instead of just my experiences, some proof of that? Well, of course, I'm going to throw out a study to you. A study published in the Journals of Gerontology. Now that one I'm familiar with. It's just what it says, Journal of Gerontology. It's one of the foremost journals on talking about aging. Found that older adults who engage in regular physical activity demonstrated a quicker recovery from muscle soreness compared to their sedentary counterparts. Obvious, right? I mean, think about it. I'm going to read it again. They found that older adults who engage in regular physical activity demonstrated a quicker recovery from muscle soreness compared to the sedentary counterparts. You know, it stands to reason, obviously. And you may be thinking, oh, yeah, Garrett, that's obvious. That's obvious. Okay, then, and many times when I'm talking about these but whatabouts, I'll give a study like that, or I'll give a response like that, and the response I get back is, well, that's obvious. That's obvious. Well, then why do we believe that this muscle soreness, why do we believe these things happen? Strictly because time passes on a calendar. And like I always say, with absolutely no evidence of that. There's not one clinical study on the face of the earth that proves time passing on a calendar causes deterioration. Deconditioning does. The deconditioning is, I've used this is a kind of a horrible example, I know, but I've used the example of a person that's been paralyzed at a young age, God forbid. But they're sedentary, they're laying still, they can't move. Well, they may have blood flow and everything to that muscle, but it's just like a sedentary person. It doesn't matter what age, they become as deconditioned as what we typically attribute with time passing on a calendar, with age. I wanted to find some kind of really in-depth study where they got really scientific and broke down and measured muscle fibers or whatever. I had difficulty finding it. The reason being, the answer is extremely obvious. Extremely obvious. You can do it through a simple study like that. Take somebody, decondition them. Then have them train. Have a group that's sedentary. Have a group that's more active. And then see what kind of do a simple analysis at the end of their muscle soreness. And you're going to find out the ones that are sedentary and or very deconditioned are going to be far more sore than a person that's active, that's not deconditioned. But notice I didn't say anything about number on the calendar. That is blatantly obvious. It's blatantly obvious for, let's say that you think youth ends at 35. Okay, well, but for 35 and below, you'll usually believe that, hey, look, if they're out of shape, they're gonna be really sore after that first workout. Yeah, I had no problem. I believe that. Okay, well then why don't we believe it past 35? When there's absolutely no evidence that time, that magic number, whatever it is, there's no evidence that actually caused it. Listen, if you have any questions about this podcast or any others, or if you happen to have a but what about, please contact me at area code 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach me at Garrett, Garrett, at personalizedfitness.com. That's our website and our Facebook page. Hit me up on Twitter at Team PE. Thank you so much for joining me today, talking about what I think is a very simple idea. But at the same time, we have people that are stumped by this, and that avoid exercise because I'm going to be more sore because I'm older. No, you'll take it at your level. You start at your level. We do that with athletes. We do that with 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. Doesn't matter. We start everybody where they are, and slowly transform them, and they have the same post-workout experience on their way to reaching their level of wellness. Thank you so much for joining me today.